Greetings, baseball fans, and thank you for joining me in another episode of the British Baseball Podcast. If you're new to the show, my name is Matthew, and I'll be your host for this evening. I'm thrilled to have not only one but two special guests with me today, and they're championing the cause up in Scotland by doing a superb job of promoting the sport and bringing the best of Scottish baseball to your earlobes in their awesome podcast, Ballcaps and Bagpipes. So after you finish here, you should head over to their show and have a listen to their work too. Firstly, I've got Glasgow Comets outfield and all-round top dude, son of Big Boss Man himself, John McKellar. John, how's things?
Very good. Thank you very much. Been a little bit under the weather the past few days, but I'm feeling better.
Excellent. And by his side but miles apart is his podcasting host, Baseball Scotland Hall of Famer and former president of Baseball Scotland, the man behind your favourite baseball shop, Dugout Classics. He is Jason Derr. Jason, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having us on.
No problem. Now, before we crack on the show, a little news from the British Baseball Federation. They've recently announced that they've formed a strategic partnership with Prep Baseball Reports, and they're looking to give the opportunity to showcase British baseball and European amateur youth players aged between 13 and 18 to top colleges and universities in the United States, with the aim of the talented athletes getting recruited. I will bring you more information on this as it becomes available, but to be sure that you don't miss anything that breaks out of there, follow the BFF on Twitter and get the news as it unfolds. So if you're listening to the show on iTunes, why not leave us a little review and a rating, as it helps the podcast and gets more exposure. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hello. Why not subscribe and give us a like on there too. And now, without further delay, let's get on with the show. So John, Jason, thanks for agreeing to come onto the show and talk about your teams as a little bit of team review. But before we get into your teams, and Jason, you've got quite a few of them to talk about, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got involved in baseball?
Well, I'll go first. So I was 6 years old. It was 1981. Kirkland Little League won the Little League World Series. That was the first time the U.S. had won in quite a few years. And they literally just a couple of miles down the road from where I grew up. I remember seeing them being on TV, and convinced my parents to sign me up for baseball from there on out. So so I've been hooked on baseball since 6. Played all the way through high school. Had dreams of trying to walk on at Oregon State. Found out the realities of what it's like to be a college baseball player, and thought I don't have 16 hours a day to commit to the team, so I'm good. Just kind of grew away from the sport for a while. Of course, at the same time, the strike happened in '94, so it took me to Sosa and McGuire having the home run race to really kind of hook me back into baseball again. Ended up coming out in Scotland in 2003. Just happened to look for something to do. Found out there was an amateur baseball team and signed up, and that's been me since then.
Excellent. John, how about your journey?
Yeah, I encountered baseball very similarly to, I think, most people of my generation over here through the wonderful magic of Johnny Gould and Josh Chetwynd on Channel 5. I rented All-Star Baseball 2002, the video game for the PS2 from Global Video one weekend, just kind of on a whim. Just looking for something a bit different. I'd already been a hockey fan since 1995, so I figured I would try this other curious American sport out, and so I checked out the video game. Quite enjoyed it. I was confused by it, I think, as most people are over here at first with baseball, but enjoyed it. So I thought, I'm going to check out some games. Obviously, being a hockey fan, I was vaguely aware that there were games on Channel 5. So I started watching midway through the 2001 season. Fell in love with the sport and also with the New York Yankees that same year. Just watched for several years. Never really thought seriously about playing. I never really figured that there would be any way to play baseball over here. But then when I was in my mid-20s, I was vaguely aware that there were some teams at one point active. I had been aware of the Strathclyde Falcons. So I thought when I was 25, I might as well just run a Google search and see what comes up. I might have a chance of playing. So I did, and I found the Glasgow Baseball Association Facebook page. Contacted, I think, Xander, who was running the page back then. Went to training one night, and the rest is history. I joined the GBA midway through that season. Became a member of the first ever Glasgow Comets in 2014 when we split into the two teams, the Comets and the Galaxy. And I've been with the Comets ever since. I play left field for the Comets and quite enjoy it.
Lovely. Jason, what positions have you played throughout your playing days? You've hung up your cleats now, haven't you?
I've hung up the cleats for the last 2 years now. So yeah, I mainly pitched, and yeah, that's about it. I'd go to the arm falls off, but it hasn't fallen off yet. So we're doing pretty good.
Awesome. We touched on that you got into baseball via video games, John. I pretty much found baseball through video games too. In both of your opinions, what's the best baseball video game that's ever been made?
I'll defer to Jason first.
No, he's asking you. Like I said, I'd have to go with NES baseball because that was what I originally played. So.
Is that the Temco or the Tecmo?
Oh gosh, it was just Nintendo baseball.
Okay.
There was like the original game. There was Nintendo. There was a Tecmo one, I'm sure as well. Yeah, or Temco one, but yeah. But there is an original like NES baseball.
I think my favorite baseball game is probably Ken Griffey Junior's baseball on the SNES.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably have to say All-Star Baseball 2004. I think that's my favourite all-time baseball game.
Nice, good choice. So moving back onto the question, sorry, I sort of sidetracked us there a bit. How important is baseball in your life, John?
In my life, very important. Baseball came along for me at the perfect time. You know, I think I was lacking a sense of any real social life or direction in terms of being part of anything like a community or anything like that. And baseball gave me a sense of community, a sense of worth that I had been missing for quite a while. You know, there's nothing beats being with my teammates. So yeah, it's very important to me, which is why I retire every other year and then keep coming back.
Brilliant.
Jason?
You know, baseball was my life. Growing up, went to uni, kind of fell away with it. I didn't go see a whole lot of games because it just hurt too much. I'd see those guys out there and go, I could have hang with them. I would have been all right out there. So it really, it didn't really come back into focus till I came out here, and I realized just how much baseball meant to me, how much time and effort I put into it. So yeah, so even with me not playing now and me running the shop, yeah, baseball is pretty much 24/7 around the house.
Yeah, can you imagine? Do you think that the players over in this country are as passionate as they are in the States?
I think it's different because here you're playing for fun. If you're born and bred here and you have a passion for baseball, you know, there's only so few outlets you can have. So, you know, if you're going to be, staying up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to watch your team, you're going to be passionate about that. Whereas in the States, I was just having this conversation with a guy from Spain today, and he's like, I went to a game, I loved it there, don't know what the score was, don't know who won, but it was so much more about the entertainment. And I think that's kind of what it is for back there. It's almost, you're kind of you're playing for fun, but you're trying to make it. And then, once you hit that age of like, I'm not going to make it in uni, I'm not going to be drafted, and so few people are, that you lose that element of fun for a while, and you kind of refine it in like your 20s and 30s, and you go, okay, I need a hobby, and then it becomes fun again.
Absolutely.
I think that the answer to that is probably yes, and the reason being that over in the States, baseball is so institutional, and it's such a part of the fabric of American life, that you're just kind of a part of a much larger thing when you play baseball in the States, whereas each of us all are the stewards of baseball in this country. The game only grows in Scotland and across the UK by the efforts of the people who are already involved with it. So I think that with that comes a sense of passion and a sense of responsibility to the game that I think is kind of unique to other countries outside the US.
Yeah. So I will talk a little bit about rivalries because you both played against each other a few times, and I find it quite funny that, Jason, you've dressed for the occasion saying your Boston gear because you knew that John was going to come in his Yankees gear. So how many times have you sort of met each other? Well, how did you come to be like? We know that I've introduced you as from being Ballcaps and Bagpipes. So how did you go from being on rival teams to starting a podcast together about Scottish baseball?
Well, funnily enough, I wasn't actually on the opposite side from Jason at all in my debut season. Each time that we played the Cannons in my first half a year, I was a Cannon. The first time I actually faced Jason at the plate was an opening day of 2014. As far as how I've fared against Jason at the plate, not well. I've reached base once and I believe 8 tries, a couple of ground outs, and the rest were strikeouts. Even the time that I reached base, I believe, was a fielder's choice or an error. I've not done very well against Jason at all.
So I don't know about the rest of the leagues there, but so we have a rule in Scotland that if you only have 8 or 7 players, you can go borrow somebody there because it's all about getting the games played. And so they were quite happily the first game just to send John over, and then I think I started asking for John because he wasn't getting a whole lot of playing time. And so like, hey, we know John, we like him. He had good chat. He was quite willing. He was just happy to play. So he must have played about 4 games for us the first year or two.
Yeah, including I think we had at least one double header where I was a cannon for both games, so it probably has 3 or 4 games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Elton, and how did your friendship flourish, and how did the podcast start?
Well, so I was gonna say, yeah. So I, being the president of the league, I just kind of chatted to everybody and kind of see what it is. Wanted to make John welcome to come and play for a team. It's always hard to go and show up somewhere and go, hi, I'm John. I play for the team. I'm probably the worst person out here right now, so, because you're not gonna get anyone good when you get the extra players. And just to make him feel at home, and we just kind of chatted off and on, just making sure he was enjoying baseball. And then I saw he was involved in quite a few podcasts there, and with me retiring, it was kind of like, oh man, this would be something to kind of still have a foot in the game and see if he's interested in it, because I don't have the audio skill to do all this stuff there, but I have the contacts there for the people. And I think it would be a really good marriage of us together to say, all right, you can do the sound stuff because I have no clue what I'm doing, and I can find the people for us to interview. And I think we match up really well, and it's been success so far. It's been great.
Yeah, it's a really good show. I do enjoy listening to it. We talked the other day about Nick that you had on the show. He was a great guest. Who's been your favourite guest that you've had on the show?
In my opinion, I have 2 answers to that. I think the best interview was when we interviewed Jason's former Edinburgh teammate Graham a couple of episodes ago. As far as my personal favourite interview in terms of the content, it would be when we interviewed my teammate Danny Quinn of the Glasgow Comets, just because of how well I got on with Danny, and I really quite like him. And he's just a great teammate, and to hear some of the stories he was telling and stuff like that, and to just be able to shoot the breeze with one of my guys on the show was a great pleasure for me.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. That was a 2-parter, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, that was a 2-part episode. Just because he had so much fascinating stuff to tell us that I ended up during the editing process, I found myself unable to cut anymore without kind of leaving out really good stuff. So that was when we made the kind of joint decision to make it a 2-parter.
Yeah, wise choice. I couldn't imagine having to cut anything out of that interview that you did. It was really good. Jason, any favourites?
I think Danny was really good there. Like, I hadn't actually met Danny there, and the conversation flowed really naturally. And like John said, he had some great stories to tell. And I think that's what the fun bit about doing these interviews is, because you know these guys on the field, and you may not know what they do off the field, and all of a sudden they kind of open up about it. It's like, oh, that's really cool. I had no idea you did that. So I was quite blown away. And when I shared it with my friends, they were like, oh, let's go check out his music. And a couple of the guys were like, this is great. Like, I've been listening to it all day long. It's like, I'm loving this. I had no idea this guy was doing stuff. So Danny's interview was great. I really enjoyed Nick's interview. That was a trip down memory lane, and kind of bring out some old memories that we hadn't even thought about for the last 15 years. And then Graham's interview was really good. But I mean, Graham's a good mate of mine, so I knew it was going to be a pretty easy interview for us. But I think we kind of hit our stride, and the interviews are getting better and better each time.
Yeah. So what's your favourite stories about each other that are clean and broadcastable?
Oh man, we have any stories about each other. I guess you know what? We became such good friends on the off the field. Even when we were playing together, I think it was like we'd face each other, and I think we just have these big grins, knowing that okay, here we go again. And John knew a curveball was coming. You could see it.
Yeah, my favourite Jason story isn't really great for me, but like I struck out on high pitches in my last at bat of back-to-back seasons, I believe 2014 and 15 to Jason. So that's probably my favourite story about him. But we have a winning record as teammates. So I guess that's a good story as well, considering that I've never actually officially been on his club. I always hit really well against my own team when I was playing for the Cannons, which was bittersweet to say the least.
Yeah, you usually hear from the other guys as soon as John would get a base hit, they'd be like, "And you don't do this in practice. You don't do this in the games. Why is the person supposed to do it?" So it was always good fun to have John on. It was always a blast. He was always curious and asking questions, and we always made sure we had time for him, and all the guys enjoyed his time.
So, just going to our next topic here. What can you tell us about the teams that you represented and their histories?
Okay, well, so the Edinburgh team is where I started. So I originally started with the Diamond Devils there. I know the team in its current form was started in 1987. It was originally called the Edinburgh Reavers, and then they had to change it in the early 90s because the rugby team became the Reavers. And so they said, all right, let's change it to something that no one's going to ever call a team in Edinburgh or Scotland called the Diamond Devils. So we've got that name sorted. Then when we split the Cannons into the Devils to the Cannons, we had two teams there. The team of the Cannons is named after Mons Meg up in Edinburgh Council. So I thought it'd be kind of cool tie-in. It's called the Cannons with the Cannon up in Edinburgh Council. But I know baseball's been played in the country in Scotland since the early 30s. There's recorded history from then. So.
Lovely. John?
So
just want to tell us a bit about the Comets?
So I've been playing for the Glasgow Comets since the Comets' initial season back in 2014. We were the product of the Glasgow Baseball Association team sort of getting to a point where numbers were good enough that they could field two teams. And I think with some of the talent that there was on the bench every week, it kind of was discussed between would have been Jason Stott and Xander Harrison at the time, the kind of heads of GBA, and they discussed it, and I think they kind of decided that the best way to get more guys as much innings as they were going to be able to, the number of innings that we're going to need to be able to come to the ballpark and feel satisfied and fulfilled, was to split into two different teams. So they did that. Comets and Galaxy, 2014 was the first year. I went to one training session with the Strathclyde Falcons back in 2007. I don't even think I've actually ever mentioned this to Jason. But I went to a Strathclyde Falcons training session back in 2007, April 2007, with a friend of mine. And then he just wasn't interested, and it's in Linwood Paisley they used to play. So it was kind of a trek for me to do it by myself, and just something I didn't want to do every week on my own, going out that way. So I kind of left it until later when I found the GBA. But yeah, we're still fairly new teams. The Galaxy have won 3 straight championships now, though. So I think the clubs are starting to pick up a bit of steam. The Comets have, the last couple of years, finished with better records each year, so that we're kind of starting to. We have a lot of inexperienced players, players who are kind of still learning the ropes and stuff like that. So we are kind of the underdog, I guess. But we're starting to see things click together. But there isn't really a hell of a lot of history between the two teams. It's only been 7 seasons or so. But yeah, it's good to have a derby. I think it's great, because that was one thing that was missing. I think when it was just GBA, you had the 2 or 3 Edinburgh teams, but just the one Glasgow team. It cuts down a wee bit on the travel as well, because every so many weeks you're staying in Glasgow to play the other Glasgow team, so it's good.
Lovely. You had pretty decent season last year, didn't you? There's one thing I noticed when I was looking on your Facebook page, is you don't do low-scoring games. The Comets.
Yeah, we were kind of feast or famine last year. We have a pretty solid offensive lineup. Where we kind of tend to lose is defense. We've had some innings where we've just been very unlucky with errors, and it seems that we go through a patch of where it just seems like it happens every game. So when we can keep it together defensively, we do tend to score a lot of runs and we tend to win. But it's defensive issues that sometimes bite us, because we have a couple of really good pitchers. We have Robert and we have Albert, who are both very capable of pitching a complete game and holding other teams at bay if we can keep things tight on the defensive end. But and we've never really, like you say, we do score a lot of runs. I don't know, we might have finished either first or second in runs scored either last year or the year before. I know we were definitely up there. So yeah, I think high scoring games are kind of the norm in Scotland rather than the exception. Although it's just one of those quirks with our league that's kind of the case.
Martin. Jason, you've been retired, you said, for about 2 seasons. Is there anything that you're missing particularly about playing?
I miss hanging out with the guys. You know, just throwing the ball around a little bit, just kind of getting away from everything for a few hours, just be able to just focus on baseball and see how it's gone. But you know, it's 2 little ones now. You don't have a whole lot of free time to go and do that kind of stuff. So it's kind of give and take. So I don't miss running everything and organizing all of that, but I do miss just kind of getting on the field for a couple of hours a day and just having a blast with everybody and just seeing how things have progressed.
Do you see yourself coming out of retirement like John's been in and out? Or you, when the girls are a bit older, do you think you'll go out for one last hurrah?
I might make the occasional game here and there. Like I'm not saying I wouldn't. You know, I've spent so much time trying to coach when I was doing stuff there, so it was, you know, with swinging we were a little bit rusty and you know, taking a game or 2 to get back. But yeah, I can see myself. We are talking about putting like an old timers game back together just for a laugh, to see, and that's probably something more likely I'll do, because if I have to pitch, I most likely have to pitch for both teams. And I don't know if I've got 5 innings in the arm to go coach for both teams.
Yeah. I suppose it's fair to ask you the same question, John, with baseball being put on hold at the moment because of the pandemic. What are you missing about baseball?
Much the same. Being on the bench with the guys, the camaraderie and the friendship and the sense of belonging and the sense of community. Obviously, playing the game is very fun and it's something I love doing. But the thing that makes it the most fun is the atmosphere. So yeah, I'm really missing that. Yeah, there's no, like I said earlier, there's no feeling like being on the bench with your teammates.
Yeah,
I'm I'm chomping at the bit to get back. Hopefully, it'll be soon.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see how it unfolds. It seems there's like news every week now about what can be done, what can't be done. So who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Hopefully we'll see something this year, if it's the form of some sort of cup competition or if it's condensed leagues. Either way, it'd be nice to get out on the field. I mean, I've not even experienced playing yet, so it's going to be a first time for me. So I'm itching to get involved if I get the chance.
So what are you worried about most when you get on the field for the first time?
What am I going to worry about?
Yeah, exactly. So you're gonna finally get on the field there, and what are you worried about most?
Good question. Probably maybe a pigeon flying overhead and taking a dump on me or something in my new uniform. I've not really thought about it, to be honest with you. It's not really something that is in my mind. I've just been that focused on trying to do what I can at home with training, which has been hard because I've been doing physio. I think I'd be more worried about letting people down, in a truthful answer, because the people that I've met so far, like we talked about the camaraderie before, they're a great group of people in Manchester, and I would literally like do anything and everything for them in a game. And if that means sitting outside, let someone else have a go, then I'd do that. We'd already said before the season started, if I didn't even make the team, we bought some folding chairs from a supermarket. So we could take them down there, have like a picnic and just go and watch a game. I'd be there as a supporter if I wasn't there in any sort of playing format. But because they've been that welcoming, they've given me that many coaching tips and they've invested a lot of time and effort into me as a person, then I'll be worried about letting them down.
I wouldn't be, man. It's natural to feel that way. But I think the important thing to remember is something that Jason always hammers home, and it's that even the Hall of Famers are, they fail 7 times out of 10. It's a game of failure, is generally what Jason would always say to me. So I think the worst thing you can do is worry about letting anyone down, man. Just play your game. at your own pace, and you'll catch up. It's natural. But the first ever game that I started, the first play in the top of the first was a fly ball that, of course, came straight to me. So I think maybe my first pitch of the game, and I dropped it. And I felt the same. I wanted the earth to swallow me up, man. But once you get that first one out of your system, you might have one or two more of them happen, but then you'll catch one, and that feeling is unlike any other, and that does something for your mental focus. Like, you start to catch another one, and then you catch another one, and it starts to become nature to chase it down and catch it instead of worrying about not catching it. So I would just try and slow it down a bit, and don't worry so much about that. Just play your own game.
Well, it's great advice. I've made a few notes on that. That's some good pointers. So
it's exactly what I tell everyone that's new. I said, look, you're going to fail. And I said, if you fail 7 times out of 10, you make the Hall of Fame. You just get it through there. So you're not going to disappoint anybody, because everyone knows, you're new to the game. I mean, the amount of people, I had one guy he went to like New York or Boston and came back and like, I want to play baseball. I'm excited. Never played before. Went out and bought himself a glove, but he got himself a left-handed glove because he was thinking cricket. And so he didn't even know which hand the glove was on, but he was so excited to be there. That's all that mattered, because, it's like, all right, great. You're willing to learn. That's all you can ask.
Yeah. Yeah. So who's giving you the best piece of advice in baseball towards your careers?
So we used to get envoys from MLB come up there, and we had this guy named Coach Jeff, and Coach Jeff worked in the Giants and Cardinals organization, and he was all about the mental aspect of the baseball. And I learned more from him in 2 weeks than I probably did in years of playing baseball, and just how to focus yourself and not to think, and work on repetition, so you just don't even think about stuff anymore. And he really kind of broke it down for us. And man, like after working with him, my game took off. And of course, then he left a few months later, and I forgot how to do everything. I had a wicked cut fastball for 3 months, and I can't remember how I gripped it anymore, and it was long gone. But it's what it is. But yeah, Coach Jeff was amazing. I learned so much from him. It was awesome.
John,
who's been the biggest influence in your career?
Jason. It's a game of failure. Jason's advice helped me a lot my first year. And I think I carried a lot of the advice that he and his teammates imparted on me throughout my second year, my first full year. And that kind of laid the groundwork for me to develop as a player. Because I was like yourself, I was always worried about failing. And anytime I'd made a mistake, in the moment, I just wanted the ground to swallow me up. But it's a marathon, not a sprint baseball. So one mistake can be like undone within moments, because like a story that I love to tell about my first ever start is that in the bottom half of that first inning, I batted in 4 runs in the first inning on 2 hits. So I like to consider myself redeemed. You can go from feeling like garbage to a feeling of absolute elation from moment to moment in baseball, and it can go back the way as well. You just have to roll with the punches and take your time and play your game. And it was the advice that Jason gave me that first half of the season that I think laid the groundwork for me to be able to do that gradually.
So it's like you were made for each other.
Well, we do have a very organic, I think, chemistry and rapport, which I think is what makes our podcast work. And it was partially why I wanted to do it as well. I just thought it'd be fun. I got a random message on Messenger from Jason at the end of 2017, right at the kind of December 2017, and I wasn't playing at the time either. I had some health problems at the time, so I was kind of just sitting around. And he was just like, do you want to do this podcast? And I was like, yeah, cool, sounds good. It could be fun. And I agreed to do it. And then we went back and forth for like a year and a bit before we met last January to properly thrash out what we wanted to do with the show. and then it wasn't until the following August that we actually started kind of recording and distributing the show. So it was a long time coming. But the thing that made me so quick to say yes was just the organic chemistry that I've always had with Jason.
Yeah, it comes across in your show as well.
I think it does. Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's just good banter. I mean, John's a great guy. I've had fun, chatting with him every time I play because, he's always asking questions and curious. And that's all you ask for people is, you're curious about the game. How do you do this? What do you do that? What can I see? What did I do in my last at bat? Because I know you're watching. What tip can you give me there? And as a coach and a manager, like that's all you want is people to listen and say, all right, great. This is what you're doing wrong. Here's a quick tip. Try not to think about it when you're up to bat because if you think about it, the ball's already by you. It's just react to everything.
Yeah. So can I share something a bit personal? I don't know, not personal. I'm not that kind of guy. I've not even had a beer yet. But have you ever had to give up anything or sacrifice anything for baseball?
Oh gosh, time would be the thing to sacrifice. I don't even want to think of how many hours I put into running a league, getting a team organized, and all there. But you know what? I'd do it all over again. Like no problem at all. Like I did this job unpaid for 10 years as the league president, and then throw on another 5 years as like manager and coach. So yeah, I've got 15 years already invested in just in Edinburgh alone and doing that. So yeah. Before I was just doing it for fun, and then as it grew on, it was like, okay, yeah, this is something I need to actually really think about and kind of leave a legacy behind to say, that there was a point in time that I was here for 15 years and kept things ticking over.
I was thinking then, you mentioned in your podcast not too long ago that you used to travel up and down the country, not just Scotland, but the UK before Baseball Scotland became its own entity. What was your favourite away day?
Oh man, well, we would travel up and down the country. Hull was a good one. Menwith Hill was a lot of fun because of the American Air Force Base, and everyone it would always be the trip. We'd have to go rent a van because we would go from a team of 10 to a team of 18 because everyone wanted to go and get Mountain Dew and grape soda and Philly cheesesteaks and all the stuff you couldn't get. But the greatest, if you want to call it a road trip, would be when we went to Lithuania to represent Great Britain CEV Cup 2005. And yeah, it was great fun. Met the president of Lithuania, met the U.S. delegate from the U.S. that was in part of Lithuania there. It was cool. It was a brand new stadium that was like in the middle of a horse track. So you had like a horse and a chariot going on in the background while playing baseball. And it was still like Eastern Europe then. It hadn't been westernized. Like they had just gotten their first McDonald's. So there was 2 flights a week to Vilnius. So we ended up being there for 10 days. So I got to see a lot of Lithuania, when it was still kind of Soviet, and it was inexpensive. And, there was 16 of us there. So we had a blast. It was like a 10-day boys' day weekend, So, but it was fun. I mean, it was fun to see baseball and see how it was played in Eastern Europe and to see how good they are. I think I threw a possible 24 of the 30 innings we played that weekend.
That's a lot of baseball.
That was fun. Like I said, I got a rubber arm. Like I said, I may not be able to break 60 miles per hour, but I got some movement.
Johnny, you got any favourites?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't around back in the day when they did all the kind of travelling up and down. Certainly, I've never been overseas, but for purely selfish reasons, I think Edinburgh is probably my favourite away day. I've always hit well in Edinburgh for some reason, so I always enjoy going there. I just tend to have a good game when I go out to Edinburgh. Yeah, I mean, I've only ever really travelled to Edinburgh and Aberdeen, so I don't have as big a sample size to choose from, but definitely Edinburgh for that.
I think that Edinburgh probably be one of mine. We were talking the other day, Jason, weren't we, about Edinburgh, and it's one of my favourite places in the world. So many great memories around there, and I'm planning on I can't put a time scale on it, but I can't wait to come back up to Scotland. I'm going to try and plan some trips with baseball involved in it as well. So that's in the future. But I'll probably let you guys know when I'm up. If you guys want to get a few scoops or something. I was speaking of it, like Scotland being such a great place for me personally. If you guys could create a franchise right now and drop it anywhere into Scotland, just because I'm asking this because I love seeing baseball stadiums with these beautiful backdrops, and there's so many different places in Scotland where I could think there's a perfect good diamond could go just for scenery. Where would you put a ballpark in Scotland if you could choose one place?
Well, when I look at the map of where teams are just now, so you've got Aberdeen, you got out towards Fife, you've got Edinburgh, you've got Glasgow, but there's nothing south or west of Glasgow. So I would probably think out towards where I'm from, like Lanarkshire way, or somewhere closer towards where the borders are, just to kind of, dot the clubs more around the country. But there's also the kind of argument of maybe we would do it, up north more, because of the scenery. I think weather would probably be more of an issue out that way. But yeah, I think my first answer would probably be, as I say, kind of west or south of Glasgow, so that we can kind of spread it out more across the country.
Yeah.
Jason? Ideally, if you build a super site, I think Perth makes sense. It's kind of the middle for everybody, and then you're just right in the Highlands. I think that would be an awesome place for one. But for selfish reasons, I would like to say if we did in Edinburgh, I'd like to do it down by Arthur's Seat, just down there, that big open field, just take it over there, right next to the palace. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. That makes some outfield, doesn't it?
Well, we used to train there. So down at Holyrood Park is where we originally had trainings, and it was always interesting on a sunny day because we'd have to tell people we had the park rented, and we would have to chase people off. So we had a couple of guys that were some big dudes that could put the ball way out there. And one of my favorite memories was there was a wind kiter, and he got caught in a draft and must have gone up about 40 feet in the air before dropping. We had to get the ambulance to pick him up, all that. But it was just like you just hear the scream because he got picked up by a gust of wind, and we were like, oh no, that's not a good thing at all.
Awesome. Right, as we sort of bring the show towards a close, is there anything else you guys like to talk? I like to give the last word to the guest. So if you've got any shout outs, anything you want to talk about before we head off, maybe you want to talk about Dugout Classics, Jason?
So I think it's been great. I mean, I've been involved in baseball for almost 20 years out here. I've seen it get big, I've seen it get small, and I think it's back on the upswing again. So it's nice to see like yourself doing the podcast and everyone that's getting involved in there. It's definitely had more exposure than we had back in 2003 when I found it in the magazines advertising there was amateur baseball. So we've gone a long ways. But yes, of course, I got my shop. I got the classics. So we do vintage jerseys. So we do only authentics. We don't sell any of the fakes. So and we also authenticate anything for people. So if you're wondering if the jersey is real or not on eBay or Depop or wherever else, I'm quite happy to look at it and give you my I guess expert opinion. I won't say there's better than people out there to do with that, but I can give a good look over and see if it's authentic or not. And then our big thing now is baseball cards. We got a bunch of vintage baseball cards we're selling as well too, which is kind of fun to do.
Yeah. John, any love you want to spread?
Just to everyone involved in baseball in Scotland and across the UK, I know how frustrating it is to not be able to get back on the field. But I just want to wish everyone a great season whenever we do get there. And certainly I want to close just by saying thank you for having us on, Matt. It's been a pleasure, man, and hopefully we get to come back on sometime.
Definitely. That's a plan. I mean, even when I've spoken to you guys and it's not been recorded, it's been a good laugh. So yeah, we'll definitely plan this again. One last one for me before we go. If you had one wish for baseball in Scotland, what would it be?
Ooh, I would like to see. I think I would quite like to see more exposure for the game here, whether it be games being live streamed online or something like that. I think that's kind of what I would like to see. I would quite like to see Edinburgh finally get that field built to see what a purpose-built baseball park would be like in Scotland and how that would change the game. But anything that we can do to raise the profile of the game, and I think something like live streaming games or releasing video of games or highlights or something like that is probably the thing that we need to look at doing in the short term. I know that Jason kind of piloted that a couple of times. He used to record games on a camera back in the day, and I think that's something we could probably do more of to try and raise awareness and raise the profile of the game. Because if people can find somewhere online to watch a game, then I think they're probably more likely to want to come along to the field and either watch or participate. So I think that would be my wish for baseball in Scotland. Also, on top of just to come back to be able to play again.
Yeah, true. It's funny you mentioned about the videos and the highlights. It's something I've been looking into and trying to, plan to try and get something coordinated with teams to have highlight packages on the show, but sort of like a match of the day style program. The logistics of it all, it's just writing it down and filling notebook.
I was more a Football Italia kid growing up.
Yeah.
Gazzetta Football Italia style.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I might even do it on a Sunday morning, just as a homage.
For the paper.
Yeah, yeah, and a nice cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Jason,
I love the mug, by the way.
Oh, this old thing.
Yeah. Where can I get one of those?
Oh, it's a one-off. My partner got it me as a sort of just as a present. Just went and got me a mug, and it's actually awesome. I just noticed it's backwards on the camera. I don't know if it'll play the right way around once.
I can see it fine.
It looks fine our way.
It was cheaper because they messed up the spelling. So
you missed the trick, man. You should start selling those.
Well, if only I knew a shop where I could sell merch. Jason.
I think I might know a guy.
I think I have thought about merchandise, but not for the show, but sort of just something daft like a T-shirt just says "Watch British Baseball" written on it, so I can walk around Manchester and people go and try and spark some sort of talking point, or just have someone throw something at me. And if it hits me, I go, "Hey, you got a great throw!" With that can. No, have you ever thought about pitching? No.
Well, Jason and our last guest Nick brought up a guy who did something similar around Scotland back in the day. I believe it was Coach Ron, Jason, that used to do that with his cowboy hat and his baseball uniform.
Yeah, his kilt and his uniform top, and it was just chatting to me about baseball in Scotland. And I think he spent most of his time in the Royal Mile, probably talking to other Americans. But he was Scotland.
There's a gent in the Southwest Baseball League, actually. He might have been, I'm going to get this wrong and get in so much trouble. I think it was the Spitfires. And he was out and about in his full jersey, handing out leaflets and all custom designs and stuff. If it's the wrong team, I apologise, but I meant to try and get him on the show, but with everything going a bit sideways, it never sort of emerged. But yeah, I love how creative people can get when trying to promote British baseball and trying to get people involved. It's what makes it worthwhile. It makes me want to try harder, knowing there's people out there doing exactly the same and more to try and promote the sport. It pushes me on to try and do better product, better content, so that if people do stumble across it for the first time, that they're intrigued and want to find out more. It's for the people. Jason, have you got any wishes for Scottish baseball before we go?
John, on that, we've been talking about getting a field in Edinburgh for 10, 15 years. So I think we're getting there. I think I've got something that I'm going to release next week that's going to hopefully shed some more light on baseball in Scotland. We're getting there. So it's hard. Money's tight. People, a field costs $100,000, no problem. Because we said if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And man, the dirt is not cheap. It is like 40,000 pounds just for the dirt. And so hopefully they get the ball rolling, and then then that will slowly start raising funds that way, because we're hoping to look towards the North American audience of being the one that really kind of funds it all, because there's been money in baseball, not the UK, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
we got to look towards other sources. But yeah, I'd like to see it get done, and saying, all right, it is done. We have a field, and hopefully it'll be one of the best in the UK.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I know that the Newcastle Nighthawks have been successful with raising some funds through their GoFundMe. It was just short of £2,000, and they're trying to build like a centre. Again, I'm going to get in more trouble for this. I was literally talking to them last night. They're trying to make it like a hub for baseball in the north, so that it can bridge the gap with like Scottish baseball, and there for like a talent pooling sort of thing for showcasing. So exciting times.
Yeah, I think I read about that in an article. It may have actually been yourself that put it up.
It would have been Extra Innings. I would have retweeted Extra Innings. It was a really good article. Yeah. So props to Extra Innings UK. Good work.
Because we talked at one point in time of seeing if we ever got a team in Newcastle and we have a Scottish Newcastle league, because this is before we had Aberdeen. So the travel would have been the same for everybody. So.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Again, I really appreciate you coming back to do some extra recording. We did a few technical issues in the first session, and I've enjoyed this as much second time around as I did the first time. Where can we find you on the old social medias?
So you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. It's both at Capsandpipes. If you just search that into the search bar on either Facebook or Twitter, you'll find our pages. The show can be found on pretty much any of the usual platforms. We record it through Anchor. So the homepage is anchor.fm/Capsandpipes. Otherwise, you can just search Ballcaps and Bagpipes on the podcast provider of your choice. You can find me on Twitter at John Capspipes. And I believe Jason, he's at Bubba on Baseball. And obviously, Dugout Classics, Jason's store, it's dugoutclassics.com, and can be found on Facebook and Twitter as well. I believe, again, it's just at Dugout Classics.
Well,
sorry, I'm so used to doing that on our show that
I was just going to say, is that part of your outro, and that's why you take that. Yeah. But, there you go. Right, gentlemen, all the best, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks so much for having us.
Pleasure's all mine.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Ta-ra.